Hey guys, just kind of wanted to give you an update about everything going on. I'm obviously not back today. I did test positive for COVID, so I won't be back probably at the earliest next week, like on Tuesday. But I'll keep you posted. Everything should go on as usual. You'll still see your lessons posted in Canvas. You should continue working as if I was there. I'm still monitoring your work from home. I'm not feeling 100% well, but I'm well enough to keep checking on you guys. I'm checking GoGuardian. We're still gonna have your tests on Thursday. And again, I'll be on there to start your test at the beginning of class and to end it. I kind of wanted to go over what you should expect for your test, okay? So this test is 20 questions long, and it really covers the second half of this unit. So this tab that we're on is your cells unit. So at the beginning, we covered all about pro and eu and the different parts. And I'm going to be honest with you, there's 2 or 3 questions. You really should still be familiar with prokaryotes versus eukaryotes. That's something that's going to keep popping up all year. The key difference here being that a prokaryote doesn't have a nucleus versus a eukaryote does have a nucleus. So again, not too many questions from this beginning part, but there's things that are going to keep popping up. I would review my endosymbiotic theory, the idea that 2 prokaryotes came together to form a modern day eukaryote, which is evidenced by the chloroplast and the mitochondria and the fact that they have their own DNA. But again, this test really does cover everything starting with page 15, okay? So the composition of the cell membrane will be really important for your test. You should know what it does, that it allows. It controls things that come in and out of the cell. It allows certain substances to pass and others to not. This word selectively permeable is pretty important. The idea that some things can come in and others cannot. You should understand the makeup of the cell membrane. It's a phospholipid bilayer made up of a double layer of a phosphate head and a lipid tail. We talked about how 3 of the 4 biomolecules are found in the cell membrane. The lipid, which is part of the makeup, the protein, which is these channel proteins that involve transport, and then the carbohydrate, which is involved with signaling to other cells. The only guy that's missing is the nucleic acid, because that's your DNA and that's going to be found inside the cell, okay, with the genetic information. You should understand the words hydrophobic and hydrophilic, and we wrote those in right here so you can look that up. So the tails repel the water, and the outside heads are actually attracted to the water, which is why it works, okay? And again, you should know the overall function, the ability to let things in and out of the cell, okay, as needed. Well, on page 16 is where you have your egg lab, and I'm going to come back to this guy in a second. There are 2 things I want to fill out right here with you that I expect you to know that I don't think I had a chance to go over with you in class. Page 17 is probably the most important page for the test. You do need to understand that there are 2 basic types of transport. There is what we call passive transport and what we call active transport. Passive transport is broken up into 3 types: simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and osmosis. In simple diffusion and osmosis and diffusion, all molecules move from an area of high concentration to low, which means whatever side has more, the molecules are going to move to the side with less. That is what's normal. That is what we consider moving with the concentration gradient. And if you are missing some of this in your notes, you should go ahead and add it with the concentration gradient, okay? Which means from high to low. The only difference is in facilitated diffusion, a protein is used. In osmosis, it's just simply about water movement, versus diffusion could be any kind of molecule, whether it's glucose, maybe it's salt, maybe it's anything else that the cell might need, okay? Now, these 3 are the same from high to low, Inactive transport is the only one that is actually backwards. And I wasn't actually present to go over this one with you, but this one's easy to remember because it's the only one that moves against the concentration gradient. It goes from low to high. So if the cell already has a bunch of a certain type of molecule, let's say this was glucose, and let's say it wants more glucose, well, it can take another one in. However, it's going to have to use energy in order to do that and cross the cell membrane. Again, these two use a protein to work, but this one is different than the other three because this one is the only one that uses energy. The cell will have to spend energy if it wants to take more than what it already has. These definitions here were really just meant to help you. I don't believe the test has any questions about what does this mean, what does that mean, but you should understand the solute is the thing that is being dissolved and the solvent is the thing that is doing the dissolving, which in this case, it's almost always gonna be water, okay? All right, hop on over to page 19. This is also on the test, asked in many, many different ways. Make sure you have an understanding of when we're talking about water movement, okay? Water is always gonna, through the process of osmosis, is gonna move from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So for example, if 80% water is on the outside and the inside only has 70%, then water is gonna move into the cell because this is higher than the 70. So whenever given the water concentration, you can look at that number and you can figure out what direction water is gonna move in. The cell membrane is permeable to water. It is not permeable to all solutes, but it is permeable to water, which is why the water moves in. In your egg, when you put your egg in water the second day, so I wanna go back to this guy on page 16. When you put the egg in water, the egg got bigger, and the type of solution that you had put it in there was actually called a hypotonic solution. That's why the egg got bigger. Your egg was shrunken when it was in there, and then you put it in there, and there was more water on the outside than there was on the inside, so it caused the egg to get bigger. Now, the opposite of that is hypertonic. That was day one. In a hypertonic solution, you have more solute than you do water on the outside than you do inside. So again, if I look at the water, there's 70% out here and there's 90% in here. So since there's more on the inside, the water's going to come out and it's gonna cause the cell to shrink, okay? Now, that is what happened on day one. The kind of solution, the syrup, is considered a hypertonic solution because it has more solute than it does water and it causes the water to come out. The biggest thing, I think the biggest point on this one where kids get confused is obviously these totals, like this guy right here, 70 plus 30 is equal to 100, 90 plus 10 is equal to 100. So that's how I'm figuring out the numbers. So whenever I'm asking you about water moving in or water moving out, you're looking at just the water percent. But when I ask you about whether something is hyper or hypo, what I want you to look at is the solute. In this case, the prefix hyper means more. There is more solute outside than inside, so this is a hypertonic solution, okay? In a hypotonic solution, there is less solute on the outside than there is on the inside. So 20 is lower than 30, so this is a hypotonic solution, okay? In an isotonic solution, you have equal amount of solute, both on the inside or the outside, so water will move in and out in order to reach a stable balance, okay? You should also take note of what happens to the cell. I mean, you can kind of figure out like when is it gonna get bigger, when is it gonna get smaller, when is it gonna stay the same size, okay? And all these processes that are happening are all about maintaining, and again, if you don't have these words in your journal, I think for some of my classes, I wasn't here to fill that in. Make sure you fill those in so you know them. This movement of water in and out is so that the cell is trying to reach a state of equilibrium where the two areas are equal and a state of balance, which is called homeostasis. So all living things are trying to reach a stable internal environment. It's the reason why we maintain our temperature. It's the reason why we maintain, it's the reason we drink water. You drink water coming in, and then you need to go to the bathroom, water coming out. So it's a constant cycle of maintaining stability inside of us, okay? On these pictures, all I was trying to show you on here is given an example of whatever you have, and most of you already have drawings in here. Whatever we drew, make sure that you can identify if there are more molecules on one side, they will move to the other side in order to reach that state of balance, okay? Your test doesn't cover a lot of other things. It really does stick to these last 4 pages of your journal. Do everything you can to review these. It will not be an open notes test. I will be monitoring that, and there will be a sub there to make sure that that doesn't happen. Again, I will open your test during your assigned period, and you will take it during that time, and I will be watching you using GoGuardian. Be sure to have your charged Chromebook that day because it will not work any other way. If something were to happen that day and you're unable to take your test or something happens, then I do expect you to come see me. Again, I should be back by about Tuesday, as long as everything goes, according to plan, and I become completely symptom free. Again, if you have any questions, you can reach me via email. You can call me. Email's probably the best. Send me a message through Canvas if you need a Edpuzzle reset. Some of you have already been sending me those messages. So again, I'll see you guys next week. Behave. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.